Welcome back to the Daily Lift. And in this world, we have laws that govern this universe that the Lord Almighty has set into place. And one of these laws is called the law of atrophy, or the law of disuse. Simply put, as the old saying goes, use it or lose it. And this reigns true in all of nature. If we don't use our muscles and exercise our bodies in some way, our muscles will weaken and deteriorate. A sword or knife that is constantly used will stay bright, whereas one that is put on the shelf will rust. A shovel, the same. You'll get a lot more use and a lot more lifespan out of a shovel if you're constantly using it than if you just store it away. And this law of disuse or law of atrophy is also found in the Bible. And our lives on this world, we have a purpose. And if we're not using our purpose, we can lose our souls. And God has put us here on this earth to have us glorify Him. And if we're not using our bodies, our focus, our energies on doing that, on seeking Him and glorifying Him, what do we stand to lose? It reminds me of Matthew chapter 25. Starting in verse 14, we have the parable of the talents. And in this parable, Jesus is speaking about the coming kingdom and judgment, where the final counting will be taken. And he explains it this way, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he says that there was a rich man and he left some money to a few of his servants to do with what they were supposed to do with it. And he went off on a far journey. And so the first one, he gave 5 talents of gold. The second, he gave 2 talents of gold. And the third, 1 talent, each according to their ability. Now I want to point out here that he gave them these talents according to their ability. And a lot of times we think of talents here as the gifts that we have. But however, this is just a unit of money. And so this is just gold that they're being given. And so they are given this money according to their abilities. And so what they have been given is not talent in the sense of gifts, natural abilities, but they are being given responsibility. And so what are they doing with this responsibility? The story goes on, the parable goes on and says that the one that received 5 doubles it, and he earns 5 more. The one that has 2, he earns 2 more. And the one that was given 1 talent, he goes a different route. This guy ends up digging his money into the ground and hiding it. And so when the master comes back, he brings these servants to him and he wants to get an account from them. And the first servant says, "Master, I have 10. Now you gave me 5 and I doubled it." And he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord." And the second one that had 2, the same thing happens. He says, "Master, I've doubled yours. You've given me 2. I have 4 now. Here's your money." He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And the last one, he comes to the master and says, "Master, I knew you were a hard man, and I knew you reaped where you did not sow, and you gathered where you did not scatter. And I was afraid, so I hid your money. Here it is, all of it." And you know what that master said to that servant? He said, "You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I didn't do all these things, why didn't you at least put my money in the bank, or could have at least earned interest? Cast this servant into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." He says then to those who have much, more will be given. And to those who have little, even that which they have will be taken away. What does this mean? Use it or lose it. God has given us stuff to use. He's given us talents and abilities. He's given us our lives, time. What are we doing with these things? Are we using them for kingdom work? Or are we burying the things that God has given us and shirking our responsibility? There is no running from God, and there's no running from the judgment. Everyone will be there. It is up to us and what we do in this life that will determine whether we hear, "You wicked and lazy servant," or whether we hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." If we want to enter into the joy of the Lord's, we must make sure that we are using the abilities and taking responsibility for those things as God has blessed us with them. What can you do today for the kingdom?